Geopolitics Empire is joined by Doc Malik, the canceled surgeon. You can no longer find him in any operating room, but you can find him in the metaverse at docmalik.substack.com, where he's working on people's brains to brainwash them. Welcome to Geopolitics Empire, Doc.
God, man, I wish I was as slick as you when it came to intros. You got this gravelly, sexy voice. You got this really interesting accent that you can't place. And yeah, I don't really do nice intros like that.
Well, you can start. And I was just a guest on your awesome podcast program. I don't know how you do it, how you sleep. You're just churning out a million amazing podcast guests every week. But to start, I guess my question for you would be, and then we'll get to what happened to you. But COVID-1984, as I like to call it, or COVID-9/11, I started using that in like March 2020, and someone actually sent me $20 via PayPal when I was still allowed to use PayPal. They said, "You're the first person I heard use that phrase, COVID-1984." What was it? From looking back from you've been your doctor, health expert. I view it as some sort of totalitarian, technocratic military operation. COVID. What was this whole thing? And that is because it's still ongoing and they might try it again.
Yeah, that's $1 million question, buddy. Seriously. I love that. COVID 1984 or 9/11. It's funny, Richard Gage, you might know him, the guy who set up the architects and engineers, for 9/11 truth. He actually had to leave his association because he said, look, this whole COVID thing, just like 9/11. And they're like, whoa, you can't do that. So he had to leave and then do his own thing. So you're 100% on the money there, And what was 9/11? 9/11 was a false flag. What was 9/11? It was the grandest of conspiracy realities. There was misinformation. There was complete mind warfare going on. There was financial shenanigans and justification to go on, splurge money and go on this all-out war campaign, forever war. And then introduction of the biosecurity state, the Patriot Acts, everything. So when you think about it, yeah, COVID is 9/11, 100%, because what has it done? It's this forever war against these nasty germs and pandemics. The enemy is out there and it's invisible. And we need to be prepared. The preparedness, industry is there, the pandemic preparedness industry. And we can touch upon this, with the WHO and the IHR amendments, which are specifically targeting that. And then, you had further infringement on our liberties, just like the Patriot Act and the biosecurity state, the COVID passports, vaccine passports, you name it, the testing, trace and testing, track and testing, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of money was made, a lot of money. So I think the parallels are huge. And, when I talk about, I used to talk about the military industrial complex and the medical industrial complex. Actually, I think they're the same thing. The medical military industrial complex. It's this massive behemoth machinery trying to exploit the wealth and the talent and the hard labor of just, normal human beings to feed this beast, this evil parasite that's sucking the life force of humanity. So if you want to know what I think it is roughly, yeah, it's exactly what you just said. If you go into the details, Rovi, it's not clear. And I'll tell you why. It's deliberate. It's the fog of war. Misdirection, misinformation, confusion. It's deliberate. These are tactics. Leave the enemy confused. Create a bank of a fog, all around you. Smoke screen. Is the enemy in front? Is it behind? Is it to your left? Is it to your right? What are they throwing at you? Like, where's upside down? You just don't know. You're spinning around. You're just confused. And in that confused state, you lose sense of reality. You're no longer grounded. How can you fight the enemy? When you don't even know who the enemy is, where the enemy's coming from, and what they're attacking for. How can you defend yourself from that? So it's deliberate. And do you remember back in 2020, how fracking confusing it was. Like the information, the charts, the graphs, you didn't have a clue. I mean, I'm sorry. At the time, I was thinking, maybe I'm just dumb shit. I just don't understand all this. But I'm not. I'm a consultant surgeon. I'm a pretty smart guy. I was looking at all this stuff and I was like, I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. And oftentimes, it's kind of like conflicting information. I'd go through the official government data, the ONS, and it'd be so confusing. And the thing is, you needed to be a statistician to read through the lines and figure out. But in essence, everything was a lie. It was all confusion. It was all stand up, sit down, stand up. No, sit down. No, stay sitting down. Now you can stand up. You just got to the point where you just didn't know. And they wanted you to be in that state so that you would look to the government, the state, for the answers. So when the government and state said, you can stand up, now you'd be like, okay, I'll stand up, standing up. Now you can sit down. Okay, thank you. Because making a decision was so stressful, you abdicated all responsibility to the state. And that has persisted. See, nothing has changed. Some of the pressure from the state has come off, the pressure from the media has come off, but there is still a state of, a fog of war. And we hear things like, there's a leaked, the wet market, then it's a leaked virus from Wuhan. No, it's not. Yes, it is. It's a conspiracy. No, it's not. There's a virus. No, there's no virus. No, it's clones. Maybe it's not. It was dispersed in some places. It's this, it's that. I mean, it's got to the point where it's like, I have no fracking idea what the hell's going on. But what I do know, and this is the important thing, it is important to ground yourself. So don't allow yourself to be spun around. I accept there are many things that I do not know. And I'm quite happy to say that. There's the problem with society today is too many people are scared to say, I don't know. They think that by saying that, they come across as an idiot or stupid and they will lose credibility. So they will make up some bullshit story or they'll pin their flag to one mast. Whereas I just say, I actually don't know. I think it might be this. I think it might be that. But what I do know, right? I'm grounding myself now in reality. I know where up is and where down is and where forward is, where back is. I do know medical ethics went out the window. I do know our freedom and our liberty were taken away from us and never properly returned. I do know bodily autonomy went out the window. I do know there was no informed consent. Not one person, not one of the billions of people who took those experimental shots had informed consent. I do know that mandates are the exact opposite of medical ethics. I do know that our politicians failed us, our medics failed us, our judiciary failed us, our legal system failed us, our law enforcement failed us. The pharmaceutical companies did exactly what they've always done. They never failed us. They're crooks and they always have been. Everyone failed us. These are the things that ground me in reality. And I know I'm not some crazy conspiracy theorist. I know this is conspiracy reality. That's why I know.
No, I think you encapsulated it extremely well, and I totally agree with you. Staying grounded, and happy to say I don't know. And I've been saying this whole time, as just like you, I'm not sure about certain things. I think it could be this or that. There's these different scenarios I've got on the table, and I think what we can agree on is what you say is that this was to usher in totalitarianism, a permanent biosecurity, total recall sort of state. That definitively, that was what it was. One of the main things it was to do. And then, I do have further questions. Your thoughts on, as you mentioned, the WHO World Government Treaty, as I like to call it, the big pharma death cult. But you apparently were canceled. You don't exist. I'm talking to a ghost right now. There have been. I've talked on my TNT show. I'm Dr. Mark Trosey in Canada. I'm a big fan of his in Ontario. He just got his license taken away. You had on Charles Hoff as well. I think in Canada he's fighting a lawsuit. So there's still doctors. Many doctors across the planet have been canceled. Some have even disappeared and died under suspicious circumstances. So what's sort of been your experience as doctor being canceled?
Yeah, I mean, I've just pinned you something over on Telegram. Have a look at it and read it out. It's very relevant to what you said. And look at the time. So it's it's pretty hot. It's pretty current. What
All
can you
right.
see on
So someone just I guess just today says, "Hi Ahmed, I was trying to find you earlier and can't. I hope you're okay. I'm great. Thanks. No longer practicing. Canceled surgery and I've left the GMC voluntarily. Had enough of the profession." And the lady says, "Sorry to hear that, but glad you're well. What are you up to now? Never been happier. Hope all is well with you." So I guess patients are still seeking you out.
That's a doctor. So that's a private doctor. And she used to refer me patients, every 6 months or whatever. So, she's a private family doctor in central London. And, anytime someone injures themselves or has a problem, she would ring me and say, "Oh, I've got this patient. I want your advice. Should I send the patient to you? Or what do you think?" I actually operated on her. She had a trauma. She broke her foot and I had to fix it. So, she trusts me because, I ended up fixing her foot. But yeah, that's my life now. She goes, like you said, she just said, "I can't find you. I'm canceled. I'm a ghost." Ooh, I'm a ghost now. I've been wiped out. If someone said to me, last year, you'll no longer be able to practice. Your 25-year surgical career, everything you worked for has come to an end. Imagine as a child, 14, 15-year-old, you're working, sitting all these exams, trying to get, the grades so that you can get the interviews to go to med school. Then you go to 5 med school interviews and you have rejections and then you get accepted. And then imagine how excited you are. Then you go through med school, 5 years of grueling lectures, exams every month. Then you have to do the junior doctor years and then struggle to get onto a surgical rotation. And then from that, do the research, the hard work, and get onto a higher surgical rotation and navigate past that, do fellowships, get a consultant job, become a consultant at the age of 36. I became a consultant. So from the age of about 14, 15, I started this journey to become a doctor and a consultant. And I didn't become a consultant until I was 36. And then at the age of 48, you get told, it's all over, son. We don't want you anymore. Not because any patient's upset with you, not because you're a dangerous surgeon. Actually, it turns out you're really good. And patients don't want to complain about you, but we don't like what you're saying. We don't like what you're saying. So we're going to make life so difficult for you that, you know what? You can't tolerate it anymore. And so that's where I am right now. Basically, speaking up for medical ethics, standing up for the truth, calling out all the bullshit in this world, this clown world. And I'm not a single issue person. I'm not, the trans agenda, we need to fight the trans agenda, or, we needed early treatment. I'm the ivermectin person, I'm not super specialist in one area. I am seeing the bigger picture now. All right. There are multiple pieces of the jigsaw puzzle. And trust me, Horovie, is it Horovie?
Hervoye.
Horvoye, sorry. Horvoye, I've totally messed up your name. It's my, sorry. People do this to me all the time. Now you know what it feels like to me. Ahmad. This digressing. Do honestly, when I was a little kid, I moved school once and the teacher brought me to the front and said, "What's your name?" I went, "Ahmed." She went, "Everyone, this is Muhammad Ali." I was like, "What?"
You just reminded me. Have you seen that skit with the ventriloquist guy, Ahmad, the dead terrorist?
No.
I'm going to send it to you. That made me laugh out loud years ago. But anyways, yeah.
Anyway, Horovje, yeah?
Hervoye.
Hervoye. I still can't do it.
You just say Herv. That's fine.
Herv, right? So where were we? So basically, Herv. Yeah, they just don't want me practicing for speaking up. And because I'm connecting all the dots, I'm seeing all the jigsaw puzzle pieces. And I don't say I have all the pieces. I think it's like a little children's piece initially, like 20 pieces. And I go, I got 10 pieces. I know what this is. And then suddenly I realize it's a 100-piece jigsaw puzzle. And then I get 50 pieces. And I go, oh, shit, it's 500 pieces. The more time goes by, the more I realize I have no idea what's going on. But what I do understand is there are multiple issues and they're all linked. So whether it's the climate scam, financial system, our political system, the mass migration, invasion, the mRNA jabs and pandemics, the transgender ideology, I mean, we could go on, dude. The endless wars, they're all linked. They're all linked. So I'm not a single issue guy. I'm trying to connect the dots. And my podcast is trying to cover all of these and make people realize there's a bigger game afoot. Because thinking like a surgeon and a doctor, which I can't help because I've been, it's been more, half my life, more than half my life. When you're treating an illness or a disease or an injury, one, you have to understand that there is a problem. Okay. That's number one. Number two, you need a diagnosis. You cannot treat symptoms. If you treat symptoms, you're not treating the root cause. Okay. Problems, my problem might get a little bit better and it'll come back. So you need to understand, first of all, there is a problem. Then you need to understand what the problem is. Then you need to start treatment options. And the treatment options are typically multifactorial. You shouldn't always just focus on one thing as an operation. I used to say, maybe lose weight, optimize your weight, reduce your stress levels, and you improve your diet, get some physiotherapy, adjust your footwear, and then you attack the problem from multiple things because the root problem never really is one issue. There were multiple issues that led to the problem developing in the first place. So to fix that problem, the idea that it's just one thing you need to do to fix it is ridiculous as well. You need to attack all the things that led you to that point. So going back to where we are right now, the clown world, the inverted world, upside down world. Can I swear on the show? The shit show world. The shit show world. We need to identify that there are multiple avenues to how we have come to this point in time. And if we don't address all of them somehow, we won't fix anything. We won't make the world a better place.
And I try to do the same thing. I've been trying to do that for over a decade on my podcast as well, talking to everyone from all walks on different subjects and to piece everything together. That's why I call it Geopolitics and Empire. We talked about that on your podcast, right? Geopolitics, the science of how things work, and then it's all about empire, right? Globalism. And I love your attitude. Maybe we can talk about that later. That you don't skip a beat, as you just outlined decades of your life's work, and you don't skip a beat. I've got from The Art of Manliness, Rudyard Kipling's poem right in front of me. Where he says specifically, he says you risk all of your winnings on the one turn of pitch and toss, and you lose and you start again at your beginning, and never breathe a word about your loss. You're a man. And that's what that's what you're doing, and what many of us, friends of mine, have had to do. They've been fired from their jobs for not wanting to be injected with Pentagon juice, as I call it. And so, what would be your? We all have to try, to extrapolate what would be your sort of master thesis as to what they're trying to do, because we've got the WHO pandemic treaty, the international health regulations. I talked last week to James Roguski, who's really on that. And so what are your thoughts about where we might be headed? All
right. Okay. Going back to your Geopolitics podcast, it really is epic, by the way. It really is epic. That last one that I listened to with Rurik was classic. Fantastic. So I just want to say, I've really moved over to listening to a lot of your podcasts now, I'll be honest with you, because I just find some of the other ones that I was listening to, they're just too frivolous and too... I used to listen to a lot of Joe Rogan, sorry. And I feel something's happened. He talks about Elon Musk all the time, and it's like, yawn. He talks about transhumanism, yawn. He talks about Russian bots all the time, yawn. It's just the same stuff coming, and it's almost like, are you being paid to say all this stuff? it's like I'm not interested. And I listen to you, and I go, nah, don't want to listen to it, and then I pop yours on. And I think I wrote my Substack today. why geopolitics should interest everyone and its effect on health, freedom, and happiness. I posted, our conversation because it impacts every aspect of our lives and health. So, really well done for the work that you've been doing and the amazing guests that you've been getting on. But I mean, before I talk about the bigger picture and what I think is going on, and appreciate that I might be wrong, let's talk about this IHR WHO thing. And, I'm not going to say I'm plagiarizing this. I'm taking this from David Thunder's Freedom Blog Substack, right? He's he's done some great work on this, and he talks about these proposed amendments to the IHR, and they would set in motion a dangerous WHO-led global bureaucracy. And that's what we're worried about. And the thing is, the WHO are going to get together. They're going to have a World Assembly, 27th of May to the 1st of June. And they're going to talk about these IHR amendments. And if a simple majority of the delegates vote yay, then unless the heads of state formally reject them within, 10 months of that period, they will be passed through and be ratified. And it's then, you're bound by international law. And the funny thing about that is, it's a passive thing. So it's not like the heads of state have to vote for it. The governments have to discuss it, and it's going through Parliament or the Assembly, and they're voting, and then there's a democratic process. It's, if they don't say anything or do anything, it's going to happen anyway. Do you see how clever that is? So it's just implied, that, yeah, this is going to pass through, you can opt out, and it's like one of those dodgy internet, membership things that you do. They go, try a free trial for 28 days. And when you do the 28 days, free trial, you have to give all your bank details. And they go, if you don't cancel within a certain period, we're going to charge you for a year or whatever. You have to actively cancel it. If you don't do anything, or if you forget, or, whatever, that's it. You're paying up. You're signed up. It's kind of dodgy tactics. And that's what they're doing. And these IHR, there's lots of amendments, but, David did some really good work and, distilled it into 8 key things. I'm not going to go through it all. But basically what it does is, instead of the WHO being just simple, the WHO's giving information, the WHO is now the source of all the advice and guidance and is the coordinating authority. So instead of the national governments having their public health officials and scientists and experts deciding how to react to something, is now going to be the WHO and its team of experts. Now you're creating a single point of failure. So whereas before you got redundancies, some countries might get it right, some countries might get it wrong. Now everything's going to be done by the WHO. And not just that, you need to understand that normally when it's a government, it should be elected and representing the people. Now you got the WHO. Who elected them? Who are they representing? And where's the funding coming from? And as we know, I've spoken to, for example, David Bell, who worked for the WHO, is an insider, worked for Bill Gates as well. The WHO is now heavily funded and influenced by corporations and individuals. Gavi and Bill and Gates, Melinda Foundation, individual, companies and big pharma. And the way they work with their money when they donate, it's not like, oh, buddy, I really like you. Do you know what? Here's £10. I want to give you £10. Not through PayPal, obviously, but I'll send you $10 of Bitcoin. And you're like, thanks, Ahmed. And then I go, no, there's a catch. And you go, there's a catch? I go, yeah, Hirove. Basically, you can only spend those $10 on tacos. And you go, tacos? I don't want petrol. Nope. I'm giving you $10, tacos. And you're like, all right, okay. I didn't want to eat tacos tonight. I don't have tacos. And I go, there's another catch. What? What's the next catch? Well, these tacos, you have to buy them from my shop. It's like, it's just getting ridiculous. So they apply funding, but then there's, they've got stipulations on how the money is spent, what they spend it on. guess what? A lot of it is spent on vaccines. And why do you need vaccines? Well, you need vaccines for viruses. Why do you need, but viruses everywhere? Well, there might be a deadly virus, so-called pandemic. So now you're looking for them. So one of the other things this thing does is it wants you to create this system where you're constantly looking for potential causes of viruses and outbreaks. So you've got this pandemic preparedness industry, you're sampling and testing. Guess what? You're going to find millions of viruses and mutations everywhere. Every single time you find a mutation, you're going to go, oh my God, there's a pandemic. But you know what? It doesn't even have to be a pandemic. One of the things that David pointed out was number 7, I think it was. It wasn't even like there is a pandemic. There's the potential for one. It's removing the terminology so that it's like there may be, the potential for an emergency. And then they use vague terms like, an emergent problem or an intermediate problem or an emergency. And it's like, what do they actually mean by these terms? Like, what? And if you think about it, they called COVID a pandemic. Really? On what basis? Now, their definition of pandemic has changed, recently, 2014 or whatever it was. But, to me and to any lay person, if you say, what do you think a pandemic is? You think it's this deadly contagion spreading wildly across the world, killing lots of people. Am I right? Well, that definition has now changed, and I don't know what the latest one is, but it's just basically any kind of virus, infection, whatever, contagion, but there's no deadly component to it anymore. So if you look at COVID, the average age of death, of COVID and nothing else was greater than the average life expectancy. Did you hear that? So if your average life expectancy, for example, in the UK is 78, 79, the average age of someone dying of COVID was 82. So having COVID meant you lived longer than average. it was crazy. And so what's deadly about that? And, and the data that came through showed that, it wasn't any worse than an average seasonal flu. And then if you look at the way it spread, you had these hotspots in New Jersey, New York, and Lombardy, and London. But then just across the state line or just across another country, there was nothing going on. It dead quiet. So you had problems in Spain, but maybe not in Portugal, or nothing in Malta, nothing in France. It was just, what kind of virus does that? The so deadly, contagious virus with people flying. Remember, planes were flying. People were embarking, disembarking all the time. I mean, those movies where they showed the red dots and they covering the whole earth? That never happened. And if you ask the average person on the street, did you see anyone fall down and drop dead? Do you know anyone who died of COVID? Most people shrug their shoulders and go, no. So there's nothing really deadly about COVID. There's nothing really special about COVID. And most people recovered from it. And if they recovered from it, means their immune system was amazing, and it meant that their immune system recognized something about this, and it wasn't that novel as they were saying. Something about your body said, I know you, mister. I mean, you're slightly different, but you're not that different that I don't know how to tackle you and deal with you. So the WHO said this was a pandemic, and we had all the lockdowns and all this nonsense. And, remember that Professor Neil Ferguson's modeling, his faulty modeling, and I think it was report 8 or whatever it was. It wasn't even a peer-reviewed paper. It's just basically an opinion with shitty modeling. If you put rubbish into a model, you get rubbish out. And, it was like, oh my God, this many people are going to die. And people took that, governments took that, and who took this, and they ran the whole COVID clown shit show. So they got it wrong. They got it wrong big time. So we know they get it wrong. They're human beings. They're just people, and they're heavily influenced by big pharma. And now we're going to give them the power to do this again and again and again and bypass national sovereignty and national experts and public health officials. So, it's basically centralization. And the best thing about centralization is the mafia cabal loves it. Because instead of going around to 10 people or 100 people and bribing them and extorting from them and threatening them. They just go to one person. You know what? You're in charge of all these people, but all we need to do is put the pressure on you, and you'll do what we tell you, and everyone else will fall in line. So centralization is a bad thing. And again, if you go back to that chat that I had with David Bell, he was telling me, like, a lot of these people in the WHO, they're good people, they come from the third world, they don't have that much money, and suddenly they're in Geneva, living it up, larging it up, big house, swimming pool, private schooling, health insurance. Their family member might be sick, and now suddenly they're getting healthcare. It's a cushy number. Once they arrive, they don't want to go back. It's a nice place to live. Good food, nice in the summer, skiing in the winter. What's not to love? And they want to stay. And people stay. No one really goes. And to stay, you need to conform. You don't want to upset anyone. You don't want to upset your funders. Oh, hello, whatever foundation. You're giving us $5 million and you want us to do this? Oh, okay, we'll do that. Yeah, and my job and all my people below me, their jobs depend on your funding and grant. We'll go along. That's what's happening. It's just simple human, incentives and corruption. But that's not to say that there aren't some evil individuals at the top driving this. So ultimately, what this whole IHR and WHO is doing is creating a layer, supranational layer above sovereign states. And it's the embryo of the one world government, where let's bypass sovereign states. They don't know what they're doing. The WHO is deciding what needs to be done, this emergency, whatever it might be. And I forgot to mention the other thing that IHR WHO want to do is, they want to expand the WHO emergency power. So under these revised regulations, David talks about the director of the WHO, who is, some people say, a terrorist and isn't even a medical doctor.
I call him Tedros the terrorist. Yeah.
Yeah. Based on the opinion advice of the emergency committee. And, who is the emergency committee? Who elected them, right? They may designate an event as having the potential to develop into a public health emergency of international concern and communicate this and recommend measures to state parties. Did you hear that? Potential. So it doesn't even need to be one. They just think it's got the potential of something, and then they can start telling the states what to do, and the states are under legal obligation to kind of like follow and do as they're told. And, this concept of a potential health emergency is pretty dangerous, along with the idea of intermediate emergency, and which is also covered in their proposed amendments. So who knows what a potential or intermediate emergency amounts to? Well, I mean, what does that actually mean? No one knows. No one will tell you. And then the other thing they talk about is health measures on arrival and departure authorizes states to require the travelers produce certain medical credentials prior to travel, including a non-invasive medical examination. And that's documents containing information on a laboratory test for pathogen or information on vaccination. So they're now validating these WHO digital health certificates, these vaccine passports. So, prohibitive testing, this costs people. So if you're not vaccinated, you remember 21, 23, you had to spend so much money on these stupid tests. So, and it resulted in thousands and probably tens of thousands of people vaccinating. I mean, that's not true. That's millions. David's wrong there. Millions of people were vaccinated because they wanted to travel. Everybody pretty much who I asked, say, why did you get the shot? Oh, I really need to go on holiday. I really need to travel for business. So they'll be able to push all this through. You can't travel anymore. Oh, you don't have you're not up to date with your jabs. And it won't be like, oh, you had your 3 jabs, you're fine. Oh, you haven't had your latest booster. Last time, you didn't have your 82nd booster. When will it stop? So this is just me scratching the surface on this IHR and WHO. But what it essentially is, going back to that bigger jigsaw puzzle, is everything is heading towards the one world government. And in some respects, I feel like we're already there. If you look, our high streets are all the same shops, same malls, same TV programs everywhere, same social media, same apps, same music, same. there's no diversity of culture. And I weep for that. You know, I want to go to a different country and taste different food, see different shops, buy different things, different clothes. But actually, everything's the same. Everything's homogenous. Big business rules everywhere. Healthcare has become super standardized. I mean, people think the NHS here in the UK is very different from American healthcare. It's like, no. There's managed healthcare everywhere. If you look at the uni-party systems, everywhere you go, every country's the same. Left, right. They're all going to Davos. They're all part of the WEF. So they're all the same. Everything's the same. And they have the same ideas on climate change. They have the same idea about transgender issues. Same. And I almost feel like we're already there. We've got this one world government. And you know, the ultimate test of how you know we're in a one world government? Where do you run to? Where's the place we can all pack up our bags, take our suitcases and run and go run? We're going there to be free. Everyone I speak to goes, man, there's nowhere. You know, like Mexico. Mexico's good. Mexico, you know what? It's happening here. We're just a few years behind everywhere else. You know, wherever you go, it's the same story. There is nowhere to run. What does that tell me? It tells me we're already at that one world government. What they just haven't done is declare it. You know, like when you open up a new building or you know, a shop, there's an unraveling, there's a grand unraveling, a ceremony, and they open the curtain,
cut the ribbon, right?
Cut the ribbon, open the curtains, and everybody then sees, look at that, the balloons all go up. They just haven't done that yet.
I think you just nailed it. Yeah, I mean, we are on the same frequency, and you know, even for 10 or 20 years, because I've been traveling the world, I've been obsessed with foreign cultures, and I lived in Mongolia in 6 months. I became intermediate in Mongolian. I lived in the yurt. I had my Mongolian, what do you call it, garb, and wow. I started noticing, as you said, if you have a one world political system, you have to have a one world economic system, and then you have to have a one world culture. And as you just described it, and it's this mono culture. And I by the way, I had David Bell on my TNT show back in 2022. He's awesome. And I do have to ask you, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, and you know, I respect everyone's opinion. But before I ask you this, I want to share this meme I came across the other day, which says, "I have never regretted burning any bridges. I've only regretted that some people weren't on them while I was doing it." And so, I don't mind getting people's panties in the bunch, so to speak. And so, there's the whole no virus, no contagion thing. And I love what Mark Trosi, who I interviewed, said. It's both the germ and terrain theory. I was at Anarchapulco recently, and most of the people there were no virus, no contagion, except David Avocado Wolf, who I'm a big fan of, and he's a big person in the alt media. He himself said, I'm like 80. He's 80% terrain and 20% germ because he's a farmer. He sees fungus and infectious diseases, and I cannot go there. I experience in my daily life as a parent. There's constant contagion. And from the beginning, I always believed there was no pandemic. Like, we can have the same views at the same time. There was no pandemic, but you know, infectious disease exists, and it's a normal part of life. And I'm not afraid of getting sick or being around other people. What's your take on the crowd that has the different view on this?
Yeah. So, man, I'm just with you. I've said it publicly multiple times. I'm 80% terrain, 20% germ. Why can't it be both? I hate it when people give you binary options. You're either with Israel or with Hamas. Choose. I don't choose. Frack you. I'm on Team Humanity. Right? I mean, they always do this. Whichever it is. Are you a virus pusher? Or are you saying you're a no virus person? Shut up. I don't choose either. Maybe it's a bit of both. Like, you know, I hate this kind of stuff. Right? And one thing life has taught me, ain't black and white. Shades of gray. And you know what? Keep an open mind. Today you think this. Tomorrow you'll be looking back and going, oh, what a dumb shit I was. So just keep an open mind. And don't be so cultish about things. And you know what? There's too many goddamn cults around. Seriously, too many cults. And the thing is, I've just seen too much with, like you said, with the kids, with my own infections and everything. And there, call it whatever you like. There is something out there, some kind of contagion. But at the same time, I accept we have bacteria and viruses in our bodies, on our surfaces, in our eyeballs, everywhere. And we live with them. We live in partnership and in harmony with them. But how many times have I been in someone's knee or joint or ankle, with pus pouring out, with bacteria, and we're washing it out and then give antibiotics? Something's happening. Now, these no virus people or no contagion people, are you telling me if your knee's hot and you got pus pouring out of it, you won't have antibiotics? Like, seriously? You got septicemia, you're not going to have antibiotics? Like, you know what? Just be a bit humble. And, you know, if your argument was so powerful, everyone would accept there's no such thing as viruses and bacteria contagion. You know, but it's not. It's a bit complicated. And we're not 100% sure. So just be patient. And I found a lot of no virus people get quite aggressive. And then they get quite trolling, almost like 77th Brigade attacking you. Oh, you are, pushing the virus thing. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm totally like, there's legitimate arguments in your side, but you know what? Equally, my life experience and what I'm seeing, and I can't go there yet. I just can't. I want to keep an open mind. I'm 80% towards terrain, but I'm 20% germ. I'm holding on to that right now. And I can tell you right now, in January 2020, I had something. Before I even knew about COVID, before I even saw the people falling down and everything, I was sick as a dog. And I've had the flu before a couple of times. I've even had to go to the emergency room because I collapsed when I had the flu. Don't ask, long story. I bumped my head and my wife took me up. Called the ambulance, actually. I went in an ambulance. So I had running a massive fever. So I've had the flu. I know what the flu feels like. I've had it a couple of times. This was not like the flu. This was strange. This was weird. I was very feverish, very unwell, barking dry cough. Got a little bit better and then got really sick again, deep in my chest. And I got antibiotics. And at the time, I didn't know what was going on. And that was that secondary bacterial pneumonia. So the virus knocks you out and then you get the secondary bacterial pneumonia. And I lost sense of smell for 4 months. And I've never had that. Never. Like maybe a week or so, but not like this. Couldn't taste anything. Nothing. Something happened to me. But what's interesting is my wife didn't get it. My kids didn't get it. And that's why I wonder, like JJ Couey talks about these viral clones, and Sasha Latapova talks about something else similar to that, exosomes or whatever, where it's synthetic, maybe, RNA sequences, put in a lipid nanoparticle, aerosols. I don't know. I just don't know. I had something that made me very sick. And who knows what it is? Toxin, poison, whatever they're using. But the problem that I have when you say there's no virus, there's no such thing as virus and contagion. You let the people who run the bioweapons labs off the hook. And that's a fracking dangerous game to play. Because there are bioweapons labs all around the world, many American ones. You just need to look at what they did in Iraq, okay? The Gulf War. They gave anthrax. Now you tell all these no virus, no contagion people, you think anthrax doesn't make you sick? Aspergilloma, whatever you call it, you think that doesn't make you sick? These toxins within them? You don't think these things will make you sick? Because I think they will. I think they'll kill you, right? So they've experimented and played around, with these substances and agents to make them sick. And what was Gulf War Syndrome all about? These drugs, these bioweapons, these vaccines and everything. And they made their own army soldiers really sick from all of this stuff. And they do play around with these agents and bacteria and try and make them more dangerous. And that is actually happening. And if you just say, oh, there's no contagion, there's no virus, it's nothing like this. It's all in your head. Make your terrain better. You're letting them off the hook, and that makes me almost think: are you playing for the other side? Right? Seriously? And either you're just ideologically captured, or you are deliberately controlled. You are you are a controlled agent. So and you can be controlled indirectly and directly. People who are indirectly controlled are ones who believe something truly, but are mistaken in their belief, but are promoted, and their voice is amplified. Because it suits the powers above that this person is spreading this information because it's false and it's helping them. And I get worried about these ideological camps. I'd rather people said, "Oh, not really sure. Sounds attractive. Is it everything? Not sure." That's humility. That's keeping an open mind. That's scientific. And then the other side is when you've got people who are saying it's all, gain of function, early treatment. I mean, I just don't know. Then are you, then you're letting them off the hook. Then you got the other people who say there's no virus, but their viruses exist, but there was no virus in this case. It was all just hospital measures. And again, I think you're letting them off the hook. I think they definitely did something. They did something, and people did get sick. And yes, people died because of the hospital protocols and measures. But in certain places in the world, through some mechanism of dispersal, aerosol, whatever, poisoning, they made people sick. They used that to ramp up the fear and the propaganda, and everyone fell in line. And I watched a recent video, which I thought was amazing. I'll just lay it out to you. There was a row of chairs, and 3 people are sitting in the chairs, and they're actors. And there's a bell that goes doot. And when the bell goes doot, everybody stands up. They've got pieces of paper, they're auditioning, but they stand up. And when they go doot, again, they sit down. And they're actors. Now, one person of the public comes in and sits down. And he's not an actor, and he doesn't know that other people are actors. And when this noise goes doot, the other 3 people get up, and he looks at them like, why are they getting up? And they're all like looking at their sheets, and then doot, and then sit down again. When it makes that noise again, doot, this fourth person gets up. He goes, "Oh, I don't want to be sitting there. I'll do it as well." Number 5 person comes in. He sees number 4 and 1, 2, 3 doing the same. Doot, stand up. Doot, sit down. So he starts doing it. No one's told anyone to do that. No one's told him to do this, but he starts doing it. He doesn't know why he's doing it, but he does it. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 people come in. All the seats are filled up. Dude, they all stand up. No reason. No one questions. No one laughs. No one looks at each other. No one says, why am I doing this? They all just do it. 15 people are standing up and down like idiots because a little beep is going boop. Stand up. They just stand up. A minute later, dude, they sit down. The 3 original actors walk out. They get called out and say, go out. So they're gone now. So the original people who knew were in it are gone. The other 12 idiots who don't know why they're standing or sitting carry on. Dude, stand up. Dude, sit down. Do you understand how easily it is to manipulate human beings? Get them to do shit that they don't even understand and just accept it? And what happens is there was one person who didn't get up. And instead of saying, yeah, I don't know why I'm doing this. Yeah, I'm going to sit down as well. They all look to her and turn to her and go like, why are you not getting up? I'm doing this. Why are you not doing this? What's wrong with you? So everyone gets vaccinated. And the ones who don't get vaccinated, how dare you? Why are you not getting vaccinated? Did you not hear the doot? We need to get vaccinated now. Doot, we need to get a booster now. Why are you not doing it? There's no thinking. There's no critical thinking going on. Human beings have just been programmed. We're so easily manipulated. We're herd animals. We're weak now to the greatest extent, and I believe in our history. We're weak and pathetic. And that's why these people are doing what they're doing to us, my friend.
Yeah, and we covered a lot of the topics that I'm most interested in, and something else that you touched on. Again, one of my biggest fears is you mentioned like the health passes, the Nazi health passes during COVID. I bought, it's right behind me, actual Aachen Pass from 1930s Nazi Germany, which was to prove I got it from Italian antique dealer on eBay for $10. And I bought one for each of my family members, because if I was forced again to show my COVID papers, I would whip out my Nazi Aachen Pass. And I learned later that there's a second one called the Gesundheit Pass, the actual Nazi health pass. And so my fear is what they're pushing towards is the CBDCs cashless system with digital IDs and digital passports, where they're really going to control. If the system decides, they hit a button and you literally can't buy food, no one's going to help you, because if they help you, the same thing's going to happen to them. And that's kind of my biggest fear down the line, is we're going to end up in this type of system. And so, any further thoughts on that, how you think that might play out, what we can do, and then other things that you're sort of thinking about?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think unfortunately, I'm really just disappointed in a lot of people in the world today. I hate to say this. I really am. I think, 10, 15% of the population are really switched on and get it. But the majority really don't. They know something's not right, but they don't know what. And that goes back to the diagnosis. If you don't know what the problem is, how can you fix it? And some of them aren't even aware there is a problem. They have a little sense something's not right, but they've not quite got to the point where they think they need to go see a doctor. They just think something's not right, but maybe I'll just leave it and I'll be better tomorrow. Some patients are like that. And I say to these patients, who come a year or 2 years later, and by that point, their foot's pointing 90 degrees the wrong angle. And the deformity is so severe, it's put problems on their knees, and their knees now got a serious problem. And their hip and back are off. I go, why did you leave it so late? Because you left it so late, because there's deformity and it's irreversible. You've now got knock-on complications elsewhere. And so not only will the problem be harder to fix, it will take longer to fix, and it will not be as good as before, and the complications and risks are higher. And they go, oh, really? And I'm like, did you not realize something was wrong? And they went, do you know what? I knew something was not right, but I was kidding myself. And I think that's what people are doing now. I think a lot of people are kidding themselves. They're kidding themselves that, you know what, tomorrow is going to be a better day. Tomorrow will be easier. That the problem will somehow be fixed. Someone's going to sort it out and make sense. And those people, they're in trouble. So I think things are going to get worse. I think this year, I don't know why, my spidey sense is telling me that this year is going to be a bad year. It's going to make 2020 look like the starters. This is going to be a big one. Something's going to happen. It could be anything. Could be all of them. Could be another pandemic. Could be a hot war, a proper big hot war affecting the West. It could be a massive financial crash. And that could be as a result of anything, because anything can, the tinderbox, anything can light it. Another scandal, another bank crashing, another, financial thing that we just don't even know about around the corner. It could be, oh, they hacked our electronic system and the internet and we lost outage. Can you imagine what the world would be like if for 2 weeks there's no electricity and no internet? The chaos, the looting, the riots, and then the lights are back on, right? So I'll give an example. If this happens, right? So all the people who are watching, I disappear. What's happening? I'm back. It's all right. Now we're back and we've realized who the baddies were. Those pesky Iranians, those North Koreans, those Donetskins. Are there even such a thing as Donetskins? But anyway, and now to protect us from this ever happening again, we're going to introduce digital currency. We're going to introduce a social credit system. And it's going to be so much better. And again, the majority of people, being the sheeple that they are, will actually beg for it. They will embrace it and welcome it. Because again, the evil people have done a wonderful job of getting the majority of us to enslave ourselves, to build our own prisons, whether they be physical or, more importantly, in the mind. And I think there is a World War III right now already, and it's the war on the mind. This constant, relentless war. I mean, we're being attacked from a spiritual point of view. We're being attacked from our health. You just need to look at the food, the land, the way they're raping it, depleting it of the nutrients, feeding us this toxic garbage. We've never been so sick and unhealthy and obese and infertile as a species. I mean, honestly, go down to the average beach and you just see these fat, pregnant men with beach ball stomachs. And it's apparently a dad bod. We're disgusting. You know, we're the lean, healthy, athletic human beings now. We're all flabby. And no wonder we're non-binary, because have you noticed a fat man looks just like a fat woman? They all got boobies. The women have got beards. You know, the men are just jiggling around a bit. You know, it's just, we've just lost the plot. So there's a war on multiple fronts, but most importantly on our mind. And the action of that is that we worship and embrace our captors and the ones who imprison us and the ones who torture us. It's the ultimate Stockholm Syndrome, Buster. We are living in a global Stockholm Syndrome. And the few people like you and me who call out this Stockholm Global Syndrome and go, oh shit, guys, it's the invasion of the body snatchers. We need to fracking do something. Everyone turns around and goes, destroy them. We're the crazies. We're the conspiracy theorists. We're the nut jobs. When in essence, the truth is, we're the ones who are awake. We are the ones who truly value freedom and liberty. We are the ones who love humanity. And we want to save everyone. And going back to another analogy, the problem is, if you look at all these sheep that we've got in the world today, you and me and all the other kind of freedom fighters and freedom thinkers, we are the sheepdogs. We don't eat sheep, but we protect them. We herd them. We look after them. We keep the big bad wolf away. The problem is the sheep look at us and are scared of us. And instead, the wolf in sheep's clothing, they think is one of them. And they go to the wolf for protection. Do you see how crazy it is? This is what's happening. The evil ones have done such a good job of giving themselves this veneer of being a sheep when actually they're the wolf. This is the problem, my friend.
I think you've laid it out perfectly, and even sometimes, and I'm sure some listeners now, this is kind of a therapy as well for us, airing this stuff out. Like, it shows, okay, I'm not crazy. There's other people thinking like me. It is a form of a therapy. And what, further on up the road, it's like, what now? I'm always thinking, I like how you said freedom thinker. Sometimes I'm not sure if I want to call myself freedom fighter, but freedom thinker. We talk about this stuff. We warn people, let's push back, don't comply, I'm not wearing a mask, all this sort of stuff. But I'm also thinking, like, I got to start preparing. I'm like you laid out. I'm cyanide pilled, like my past guest, Illegal Man, calls it. I think we're headed into this dystopia, and I just want to make preparations to be able to survive going through the fire. And many of our forefathers, every generation. I've talked to Robin Monotti on the program early on, I think 2021, and he was talking about Umberto Eco and fascism, eternal fascism, where every generation has to deal with this. And I thought about it. When I was a kid, we lived through the breakup of Yugoslavia. My uncle fought. He's still alive. He fought the Serbs who were coming into Croatia. My grandfather was a prisoner of the Croatian Nazi regime. My great grandfather died as a result of World War One. And so, what are you thinking about on the way forward? What now?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So on Monday, I did a podcast with a guy called Tim Leach, and he's a prepper, and he preps, and basically the title of the podcast is going to come out in the next couple of weeks. Is going to be how to prepare for the zombie apocalypse, and we need to, and I think there's two elements to this. One is in the acute phase, like for example, this year, whatever shit they throw at us, no matter how uncomfortable it gets, don't lose your shit. Calm down, relax. The world is not going to come to an end. It'll only come to an end if you think it's going to come to an end, and you make it happen. Don't make it happen. Let everyone lose their heads. Going back to Rudyard Kipling, he goes, if all those around you are losing their heads, but you, my son, maintain yours or keep yours or whatever it is, then you're a man. And that's what I would say. When everyone else running around like a headless chicken, keep your shit together. And look at the sky, look at the sun, listen to the birds, everything's going to be just fine. Everything's going to be just fine. So don't lose your shit. But in the short term, just be prepared, that something might happen. Make sure tell your family, your wife, prepare yourself, have water, have some food, keep a baseball bat, and all the other stuff that my guest talks about in the podcast. But then the other thing is in the long term, because I think, shit is going to go down and it's not going to be good. If you speak to people who lived in the communist countries, they go, oh, we didn't protest. we didn't go on marches against the state. Are you kidding me? That's like send that chap to Gulag, Siberia. Why would you do that? You went underground and you created parallel structures and you bypassed the state. So take, for example, if your children are being schooled and indoctrinated, consider taking them out of school and homeschooling them. Many people can't afford to do that because both couples and partners are working. I get that. But that doesn't mean you still can't homeschool them to some extent. So what do I mean by that? It means when they come home, talk to them. Talk to them. Take the fracking phone off them and the iPad and the YouTube and the television. And I'm not being a Nazi about this. Let them, my kids watch a half an hour of a cartoon here and there, I'll let them do that, because if you do too much, then they rebel and it's like, but I teach them moderation. So then I say, right, come on, let's get the chessboard out, or let's talk about this and let's talk about that. And I talk to them about the fiat system or the currencies and how money is made. And they're like 5 and 7, they're not old, but you can start talking about these things. So don't abdicate all of your children's education to the state. Start teaching them. Start talking to them. Another one would be stay fracking healthy. Don't get into their sick care system. Again, I was telling someone today on my podcast, it's really funny. I spent 25 years in a hospital. Sometimes, most days I would be spending more time in a hospital than at home. Sometimes I would be spending more time with my colleagues than my wife. My home was the hospital. Now if you ask me to go near a hospital, I get like my spine starts tingling. I get really nervous. It's very foreboding. I sense this dark energy coming from the hospital. I don't feel safe. I don't trust the hospital. I know the doctors individually might be very nice, but I don't trust the protocols they're following. I don't trust their indoctrination, and I don't trust their judgment that they're critically thinking. I don't trust that what they're doing is in my best interest. And what do I mean by that? Well, the last few years have shown that doctors will do whatever it takes to keep their job and their license, then do what's the right thing. So instead of speaking out against mandates and experimental shots, they've just kept their head down because you know what? They can't afford to lose it all. And doctors have said this to my face. And you've seen it. How many doctors around the world have you seen speak out percentage-wise? 0.001%? Because they've said, no, you know what? I need to keep my mortgage going. I need got a holiday, got that mistress on the side, got a lot of shit to do, cover. So I can't afford to do this. That's reality. So this idea that doctors do no harm, my ass. No. First, I need to take care of my pocket. I need to take care of my bills. Second, I need to take care of the mortgage. Second and third, I need to look after the schooling fees, holidays. I mean, where does the patient rank? I think quite low down. So when you go to a hospital, how do you know when that doctor's speaking to you and telling you what needs to be done? They're telling you what's in your best interest or what's actually in their best interest because they're following the guidelines and protocols that are going to protect them from getting into trouble. And they might know, actually, it's not right for you, but you know what? Shit happens. Nothing's going to happen to me because I'll just follow the protocol. I won't get into trouble. But if I do the right thing and tell you not to do this, protect you, well, I might get into trouble then and investigate it. So, do you know what? I'm just going to follow the guideline. I'm just following orders. So this whole idea of first do no harm is bullshit. Non-existent. So anyway, stay out of the hospital system. Stay healthy. How'd you do that? Don't eat their shit. Don't consume their shit. Don't watch their crap TV. Listen to Geopolitics and Empire, for God's sake, and support you. It's just coffee a month or whatever. Don't go to Starbucks and spend, your money on that crap. That brown piss water. Spend it on you. Look after your health. Exercise. Build relationships. Most of the relationships I've come across in my last 20 years have been very dysfunctional, not healthy. Man and woman, husband and wife together, and it's not really what it should be. Love, friendship, trust, passion. No, it's all gone. So you know what? Make sure your relationship is a proper relationship. Loving relationship, a deep, meaningful relationship, and have lots of sex, for God's sake. And then build your community. Don't be fearful of strangers and your neighbor. Get to know people and, help them out because it's a good thing to do. Check in on them because it's a good thing to do, and treat other people like the way you'd want to be treated. And then have faith, have true spirituality, and remember that we are spiritual beings, and that, I really do believe that there's a creator. I mean, I think he's on holiday right now, but anyway, I think there is a creator. And it's funny, I'm kind of conflicted, and I'd like to hear your view on this. I don't trust any organized religion. I think they're all cults, and it's all bullshit. They've all been captured by man to control, guilt, and shame us. But if, take for example, I'm an ex-Muslim, if you tell me, Jesus' teachings, I'd be like, yeah, I follow them. I liked what he taught. Am I a Christian? No. I think if Christ came down on the earth today, he would be disgusted. He would tear down the Vatican and he would say, how dare you worship at the altar of the holy vaccine? Okay? So, but the problem is, if we get rid of all these flawed, damaged, corrupted, evil religions, what have we got left? This is how they usher in the one world religion. So I'm conflicted because I don't want a one world religion, but I don't really like the current religions either. But I want to keep the current religions and just make them better and go back to where they used to be. So I'm kind of conflicted. What do you think?
This would be an entire part 2 podcast.
Let's do it.
But I think people know where I stand. I try not to bang people on the head with it. But I'm a Bible believing Christian. I could even classify myself as a fundamentalist in a sense. But I believe what the Bible says and even warns about what you're saying. Christ said how many times there's going to be false prophets. There's going to be false churches. Even the Christian churches that I attend, none of them are perfect because man is imperfect. And then but that doesn't mean to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And so and this new world religion as well, I've been talking about this recently. It's very much new age, occult, esoteric, Gnostic, theosophy, Helena Blavatsky, Alice Bailey. I've been calling out now in alt media a lot. So you've got that, and top down, from the top down, the elites have this occult view. And now from the bottom up, it's coming through alt media who are literally pushing. And I go to these conferences and they're pushing the same theosophic worldview, which I would classify technically, it's antichrist, it's anti-Christian, because they believe in all these Luciferian doctrines. And so that kind of was going to lead to my next, one of my last questions for you. The media, alternative media movement, which you're now participating in with podcasting. Just, how's that been going? What have you been learning? Any thoughts on the states? We've got MSM, but the state of independent media, and it seems like the deep state is also moving into alternative media. There's people. Any thoughts on the alt media space and the way forward there?
Yeah, without naming names, you nailed it, Buster. I think the powers at large, the predator, criminocrats, philanthropaths, they know that a lot of the population don't trust mainstream media. And, what was it, Albert Pike or something like that? That Scottish Freemason said, "We will provide the leader for the opposition." They haven't spent trillions and billions without gaming everything out. And they know that a significant population, percentage of the population, are now following alternative media, whether it's Joe Rogan or Russell Brand or you name it. So I think they're all going to be heavily influenced, and I'm not saying those particular outlets, I'm just saying I think there's a mainstream alternative media now. So not mainstream media, but mainstream alternative media, which is captured. And they're also pushing the agenda. So subtly nudging, influencing, brainwashing, promoting the idea of false idols. And there's names that we can talk about who have written great books, great speakers, great quotes, but then they say some really weird shit. Oh, for God's sake, just take the damn shot. Or give them hell. What narrative does that fit? And the thing is with these, the best lie is one that's coated in layers and layers of truth, because then it's so easy to swallow. So 90%, 95% of the stuff they'll tell you is like exactly what you want to hear. But it's either the omission, what they don't talk about, or what they gently throw in, and then you accidentally swallow. And there's a lot of these around. And if there's anyone out there who's basically saying, "Come to me, I have the answers. I will lead the way and free you. I will show you the path." Run the fucking opposite direction, as far as I can say. Okay? The only person you should ask to lead the way and help you is God. Look in the mirror and find your own leader in that reflection. God is within us all, and there lies your leader. And don't rely on anyone else. Don't abdicate your power, your responsibilities, your thinking to some other person because you're a lazy piece of shit. And don't think, "Oh, I'm not worthy, I'm not smart enough." Yes, you are. We all are. You don't even need to have it in there. You need it in your gut. Your gut instinct tells you something is off. Go with your gut. Do not override it. It never lets you down. So I think there is a drive to create, this alternative sound thing. So, they've captured 70% of people with the mainstream media. And then they're like, how do we capture the 30%? And it's obvious. You get those voices. So, the reason why I'm on your show is, because I think you work for the CIA and I'm working for the MI6. No, I'm just joking. Because we are truly independent. We say it as it is. There's no topic we won't cover. I'm happy talking about 9/11 and what bullshit job that was. I'm happy talking about anything, I won't shy away from these things, and I will connect all the dots, and I will say I don't have all the answers, and I'll look for them, and I'll say when I'm wrong. And the same as with you, you look at all the guests you've had, you cover everything. You're very open-minded. So yeah, I think, the listenership, they are hopefully wise enough and smart enough. The question is, how do we get our loyal group of followers who listen to us? How do we grow that? How do we get through to that 70% of people who are totally indoctrinated and brainwashed? I think that's the biggest challenge. I'd be interested to know what you think of that.
I think some of them just, they can't, they will never. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. There's a quote in the Bible. It says it talks about us man, which includes women, man as clay pots, and some were made for destruction. And so, unfortunately, there's these clay pots that were made for destruction. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but you and I, and people listening, we all do what we do every day. Yeah, I remember Ricardo Bossi. I had him on the program, former Australian Special Forces, a few years ago, and he emphasized Teddy Roosevelt's quote: "Just do what you can with what you got, where you're at, common sense." And Doc, you're a fantastic guest. So, crystallizing a lot of things for us, and a great podcaster as well. And so, any final thought for us as we head into whatever we're heading into?
No, just say to everyone listening, just do all the things I just said. Stay healthy, stay free. Also, just be happy, right? Turn off your goddamn phone, turn off the TV, the news. Don't listen to their shit. Don't consider, honestly, I go outside just even to my garden. I look at my chickens. It makes me happy. There's a particular chicken right now called Jenny. She's the cutest chicken ever. She's so brave. She's the smallest of all the chickens that we've got, but she's the bravest. And I love her for that. Wherever I go, she follows behind me. And when I turn around, she freezes. I keep walking, then I turn around, she freezes. And she's looking for food. I give her the food. She'll eat from my hand. I pick her up. She lets me pick her up. She's adorable. And I just think everybody should just be brave and happy warriors in this fight, because what you don't want to do is get down into this doom and gloom and negativity and depressed and fearful and anxious. Because if you think about all these emotions, what are they? They're dark, dark emotions. What's dark? Dark is evil. Dark is Luciferian, satanic. That's what they want you to feel. What is the light? Light is hope. Light is happiness. Light is love. Okay? So you need to shine the light from within outward and have joy, no matter how tough life gets, how miserable, I've lost my career, struggling to make a living and pay the bills, wife increasing her hours. It's okay. I'm still happy. People look at me and go, "Oh, you look really great. You look really happy." And it comes down to, I'd rather be poor, free, and happy than rich and a slave and miserable. So I would just say to everybody, be happy and live your life now like it's your last. And don't worry too much about tomorrow. If you just stand back from the timeline of humanity, we've been on this planet a really long time. And sometimes it's been great. Sometimes it's been shit. Wars have come and gone. Empires have risen and fallen. And you know what? It's going to be the same. These idiots that are planning this rich, small, powerful cabal of families, individuals, banks, whatever, corporations, they think they're so fracking smart, but they're so sick spiritually, mentally, physically, inbred. There's no hope for them. They're chasing this transhumanism and living forever. Ain't going to happen. They're going to destroy themselves. In some respects, we don't even need to do anything. We don't need to do anything. They will destroy themselves. And you know what? Things will get better again. And some other shit will come along, like a big asteroid. Who knows? So don't fret too much about it. Don't get too paranoid and miserable and depressed. just be that shining light. Be grateful for everything that we have. Get out in nature and love and have lots of sex.
I would totally agree. You really nailed it. That's where my head has been at for a long time. I mean, in general, what you were saying, and that's why, Ecclesiastes from the Old Testament has always been one of my favorite books from the Bible, where it says, "There's nothing new under the sun." Vanity of life is a vain parade. Eat, obey God, eat, drink, and be merry. That's where we're at. I hope Jenny makes for a good chicken burger. And eventually. And Doc, it's been great. I love your work. And your links are in the description. They will be. Where are the best places people can go to consume your content, your projects, and to support you?
Yeah, consume my content. Yeah, we need to consume our content. None of this garbage out there. Doc Malik, DocMalik.com. That's my website. It will take you to all the podcasts. And each podcast, then it can take you to the links, Spotify, Apple, Rumble, except if they're paywall. One third of my content is behind a paywall because I need to pay the bills and I need to feed my family. And yeah, publicly, I just want to say thank you to you for giving me your time and allowing me to put our episode behind a paywall. And I really appreciate it. And, it means, honestly, I can provide for my family. So I'm very, very grateful to you. And on Twitter, I'm Doc Ahmad Malik. And on Instagram, Doc Ahmad Malik, AHMADMALIK.com. And I just want to say thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this. I love chatting to you.
And don't forget, you need to feed Jenny the chicken as well.
Yes.
All right, Doc, keep up the great work. Thanks for being on Geopolitics and Empire. I hope you enjoyed this Geopolitics and Empire podcast. The website is geopoliticsandempire.com, and I encourage you to sign up for the free email list that goes out with each podcast and every weekend with a collection of news headlines. The newsletter and website are our last lines of defense. We're being censored and deplatformed. It's nearly impossible to find Geopolitics and Empire on the Google search engine. We've been blacklisted. YouTube frequently takes down our videos with strikes. Facebook restricts our page. Reddit and Twitter take down posts. And after the Associated Press mentioned Geopolitics and Empire in a 2021 article co-written with NATO, our Patreon account was terminated. Vimeo also terminated our Pro account. The best free way to help Geopolitics and Empire is to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or elsewhere and subscribe to all of our media channels. You can find the video broadcast now on 5 platforms: Odyssey, Rockfin, Rumble, BitChute, and Brighteon. You can find the audio broadcast on the podcast ecosystem: SoundCloud, Apple, Spotify, and so on. My current favorite social media channels are Twitter and Telegram, but you can also find us on Gab, MeWe, Minds, Float, VK, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Finally, Geopolitics and Empire is in dire need of funding to continue. You can leave a donation, purchase a consultation with the host, or become a member to receive additional benefits. We also produce a weekly broadcast called Dissident Thinker for members and Rockfin subscribers only. We will continue to fight the good fight come hell or high water. Thank you for listening.